Okay, so I'm Tammy and I'm from Numana Yarns and I'm here in my office. I do have a slideshow presentation to do. So I'm actually going to just get that set up here. And sorry, my screen's a little bouncy right now. It's because I'm on my laptop and I had to kind of prop it up on a box so that the height is high enough. Okay, so let's get this started. So that's me, that's my logo. And we'll get to the next page here. Whoops, skipped. Okay, so my name is Tammy Bilsma. I'm based out of Edmonton. I live in Sherwood Park, both in Alberta. I have a new shop. It is located at 4740 76th Ave Northwest. And so it's kind of like on the south side of Edmonton for anybody that's kind of sort of local. It's mostly a dye studio. So I'm only open very limited hours because my mom comes in and she helps me at the shop. So my hours are Tuesdays and Thursdays 1 to 5 and Saturdays 11 to 5. And then throughout the rest of the week, because I'm busy dyeing and everything, I just do, like, I open by appointment only so that I kind of can plan my day and not be interrupted right in the middle of something that's kind of important as far as the dyeing goes. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok as well, sort of on TikTok as Numana Yarns. So if you want to take a screenshot for this information, it's got my website on the very bottom there. That kind of gives you all the ways to find me that you might need. And you can see me sitting here in front of all of my yarn, or some of my yarn. So the shop is very small, but I do have over 1,500 skeins of yarn. I'm just moving that. Okay. I have, at my best guess, about 250 colorways. I'm on colorway number 350 or something like that, close to that. But some of them have been just like one-time dye jobs. I have about, I think, 27 now, different bases and multiple weights from lace weight through super bulky. And I have sock weight minis. I have 3 types of spinning fiber. And in the shop, I have a couple of things that are not available on the website. Like I have a local lady here that has some stitch markers in the shop, and my daughter's going to be bringing in some mugs, and there's a couple of other odds and ends that are here. So it is not a full service local yarn store. So it's, don't come to me for needles and that commercial yarns and that kind of stuff, because I don't carry that. But as you can see, I have a lot of stuff to shop from anyways. And then the studio. So I kind of thought I'd do my studio as a series of pictures, and with the pictures kind of explain the process of what I do from the very beginning right through to the very end. So the very beginning is right here. This is approximately 3-pound cones of sock yarn. This is the Salisbury sock yarn. And it comes in from the mill like this. Obviously, you can see this is not what you get when you buy it. We actually have to skein it to the right size and make it, either the full size skeins or the mini skeins. So what we do is, when we get the yarn, we weigh it and label it so that we know what date it came in. The pretty handwriting is not mine. That is my mother's. That is her job to do. So well, I'm not sure why my screen share got paused. Does that
Yeah,
happen?
Tommy, it's not moving. I still see the first screen.
Okay, that's weird. Okay, I'll resume share. Let's see. It's like the day for tech issues, I swear. Not sure what's going on there.
Maybe you can stop sharing and start again.
Start it again. Okay, let's see. Click to exit full screen. Okay. Is it showing up now?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay, let's try this again. I just need to actually, part of the Zoom is covering the presentation. So, okay, is it showing again? Oh no, it's showing paused. Okay. I'm wondering if it's because I'm in presentation mode here, which it shouldn't do, but it's showing now.
Yes, but it's
Yeah,
a smaller screen. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I think this might be how I have to do it, because it seems like when I move screens, it just goes and stops sharing for some bizarre reason. So see if I can zoom this a little bit more. Unfortunately, because I'm on my laptop, of course, it's a very small screen. Take that out. Sorry about this, guys. Technical issues. Okay, so I will go back quickly to the shop here, because you guys probably missed this, hey? Yeah, okay. So that's the store. And then did you guys see the introduction photo? No? Okay, so if you want to screenshot that, go right ahead. That's got all of my information on it for finding me. And then we'll go back to here. This is where it was. So this is all the 3-pound cones. Oh, a small section of it. I have 3 shelves worth. I have a lot of sock yarn. I have an entire shelf that's just full of sock yarn. So this is how it sits until we're pretty much ready to skein it. And then here's an action shot. This is my skeiner in action. I do things a little bit differently than I think most other people do. Most other people skein by putting the entire skein on in one big continuous loop. I actually put it on in 3 sections and then do my figure 8 ties around the 3 sections. The reason that I do this is because I find it helps to get nice and even dye coverage, so that you avoid as much as possible that I don't know if you've seen it where somebody posts a picture and it's a pair of socks and one sock is a little bit lighter than the other sock, and that's because that was the yarn that was on the inside of the skein. So I do it for that reason. I also do it because I find it winds off into a ball easier. So that's why I do that. And I did all of this myself up until recently, but my daughter graduated from high school in the end of June, and so she's actually been doing that all summer and has continued on into the fall. So when they're done, they get put onto this rack, and you can see there's little colored labels up at the top here that has all of the base information written on it, so that we can identify which one is which, because some of them are very difficult to tell apart once they have come off of the cone. They're grouped into sections of 4. You can see my daughters put them into sections of 4 up here. And that's because that's what the batch size is. If we're doing minis, then we do them in section or in groupings of 5. From there, they get put into bags and they're labeled. They're stored until it's time to dye them. Stock yarn is definitely my most popular base. So I actually have multiple cubbies for just the sock yarn. As you can see, I've got, these are all just sock yarn. And then these are minis down here. And then I've got a few other ones. And this is by far not the only cubbies that I have for them, but just a little sample of them. Some of the cubbies are shared spaces between different bases, and other ones, I dye enough of them that they get their own dedicated space. So when it's time to dye them, they get washed in the tub in the sink that's there. I actually have two sinks. It's a little harder to see the second one, but it is back there. From there, they go into, I've got this nice rolling pan rack, and so they go into the pans with water. Usually there's acid added at this time. I use either citric acid or vinegar, depending on the base. And this is necessary because it helps the dye absorb into the yarn and to set. So from there, I can roll that rack of full all the yarns in there. I can roll it down to the dye stations, which we'll see in just a second here. But before we get to the dye stations, we've got the actual dye mixing station. So you can see on the left-hand side of this picture, that's about half of my dyes. I have over 100 different dyes that I use. This is the table that I use to mix them on. I have to wear, it's a little hard to see, but right there, that pink and gray thing, that's my respirator mask. I have to wear a respirator mask when I'm mixing the dyes because the dry powder can be very easily disturbed and inhaled, and it's not something that you want to inhale. So you have to wear a mask, which can get very hot in the summertime. But I have both distilled water in the bottles here, and then I also put hot water in the canister there to mix the dyes up. You can see I've got some leftover dyes here that I use for my no dye left behinds. And basically they're just, the dyes are mixed up according to the recipe that I've already written out. From there, I put the yarn in their steaming pans right into those warmers there. I do have 8 different warmers that I use, and there's a maximum of 32 skeins that I can dye at a time of full-size skeins. If I'm dyeing some minis, that's obviously the number's a little bit different, but it's pretty close. So I have basically a dedicated space for each dye pot. So when I was dyeing at home, my space was incredibly small. And so I feel like I have so much more space now because I can spread everything out. I can get everything ready all at once and just get it set up on the tables, and then basically just start dyeing, like go from warmer to warmer, adding the dye, and it works really, really well. Usually, so there is a couple of colorways that I can dye in probably about an hour, but I would say on average, they're about 2 hours to dye, with some taking a little bit longer. Speckles generally are the longest because you're just basically setting the dry dye powder on top of the yarn and letting it slowly absorb into the yarn versus having an already pre-mixed dye that the yarn is going into and being exposed to all of that dye all at once. So I find for speckling, it takes like an hour per side. So it just takes a long time to do those. So if I'm dyeing those are the ones that are very first into the dye pots, and they get started the earliest. From there, they get washed. So I return them back to that sink that you've already seen. They get washed and spun out in it's called a spin dryer. A lot of people that have seen it say it looks like what some swimming pools have. I've never seen one at a swimming pool, but it's basically like a smaller version of your washing machine that just spins really fast, and it just takes all the water out, or most of the water out. You can see we have put back on the yarn the zip ties with the information on the base, and then I've also added at this point another tag that has the colorway information on it as well, and that follows it right through until it's actually labeled. So I find in the summer, because it gets really, really warm in the warehouse, I can wash the yarn at night and it's dry by the next morning. But usually like in the winter, fall, spring, it's usually takes a day or two depending on the base. Obviously the full size skeins take longer than the mini skeins to dry. Once they're dry, I have a bunch of these rolling grid wall racks, and we just pile them onto there and roll them down to where we finish the yarn. And then here's another action shot, although it doesn't look as much of an action shot, but this is the hank twister. So you can see attached to this table, there's like a little black box. It's got like a shepherd's hook on it. And we just hook the yarn onto that, press a little floor pedal that looks like a sewing machine pedal. And it goes and twists the yarn the set number of times that we've got it set for. And then we just fold it back on itself and tuck the end under the other one. And this is what it looks like. So you can see it's got like the little strings sticking out from the figure 8 ties. But this is what it looks like immediately after it comes off of this. From there, my daughter, she will sit at this table, and we call it prettifying the yarn when we take the ends and we tuck them all in and make sure everything looks perfect. Then she puts the labels on. And we also do all the photos right here. So this is my super big, super fancy photo booth. It's not as impressive as it might seem from looking at pictures online. From there, they just sit on the racks until the next shop update. And we got lots of room for that. So I'll tell you a little bit about the different bases that I have. So I've mentioned before, I sell a lot of sock yarn. I would say probably 70% of my inventory is sock yarn. Maybe a little bit less now because I have been working on expanding the other bases, but I have 2 different sock bases, and that's because I started this whole thing during the pandemic. I only opened up my shop on September 1st of 2020, and I was a travel agent at the start of the pandemic. So you can imagine what happened with that. And I was a pretty new travel agent, so I didn't have a ton of clients that were, waiting in the wings, ready to travel. So I got bored really fast, and was crocheting a lot, and I'm like started to learn, like teach myself how to knit again, and ran into this hand-dyed yarn, and I was just loving it, and I just couldn't find the colors that I wanted. So I decided to learn how to dye, and that was the end of that. That I was committed, I was hooked. So anyways, it was the sock yarns that I started because that's kind of the weight that I work with as a crocheter a lot. And the sock yarn lovers found me really quickly and kept buying all the sock yarn. So I have always brought out new colorways on sock bases now. So I have the 2 bases because, again, started this during the pandemic, and it was kind of a supply issue worry of mine, because you're seeing all these other dyers saying they can't get this base in, they can't get that base in. I'm like, well, if I have 2 sock bases, hopefully I'll be okay, right? So I have the Salisbury sock base, which is kind of the basic base, and it uses superwash merino and nylon. And then the Barbary sock, which is visually identical. They are spun exactly the same way, but it just uses slightly softer nylon. They are completely interchangeable in a project. You might notice a slight difference in the feel of them, but visually, like, you're not going to be like, oh, you used 2 different yarns in that project. So at some point I will decide on which one I'm going to keep, but now is not that time. So I have a sparkle base. It's called the Amesbury base. It's available with either gold or silver stellina. So this is one of those bases that I have to dye with vinegar, because if I use citric acid, then the sparkle kind of fades off of the yarn. So it's available in fingering weight only. It adds a really nice sparkle to whatever project you're looking to do. Like a shawl would be a great option for this base. And I'm so sorry, my voice is going. The Broadmoor base is 17 micron superwash merino. It is super soft. Like I want to say I almost prefer it to cashmere because it's just so soft. Like I would use this for everything baby. It's available in fingering, sport, and worsted weight. And I also have it available as a spinning fiber. The next base is kind of your general workhorse, 100% superwash merino, nothing else fancy about it. It is available in lace, fingering, sport, and worsted. I do not carry DK weight. I get that question asked a lot. I do have sport weight though, which is very, very close. And I have found recently that there seems to be a big uptick in the number of people looking for sport weight yarns. So if you are looking for sport weight, I'm your girl. Then there is the Georgian base. This is my silk and merino blend. I have it available in either 30% silk or 50% silk, with the balance being the superwash merino. It's only available in a fingering weight, and it's a little bit of a heavier fingering weight than my sock yarn. I also do have it available as a spinning fiber with 50% silk and 50% superwash merino, and it is so shiny. The pictures really don't do it justice. It just, I find that the pictures, it almost like you get like almost little glares of it, almost like it's like it got a sparkle in it, but that's actually just the reflection from the silk, and it's just so soft and shiny and a really pretty yarn to work with. Then we have the Glenbrook base. This is a sock yarn, or can be used as a sock yarn, because it is superwash merino, 20% yak and 10% silk. So, sorry, I'm just gonna have to take a drink here. So it does have, oh, sorry. It does, oh boy, my voice is really going. It does have that silk in it for the extra strength. So it is nice and soft as well, a little bit softer than your merino. And if you're looking for something that doesn't have any man-made fibers in it, this would be the base that you want to use for socks. The Haythorn base is my single ply. Oh, my voice is really going. I'm so sorry, guys. I do have it in lace, fingering, worsted, and super bulky. And so pictured here, I've got the super bulky Meet Me in Lacombe. It is a really nice, if you want to, like, you know, you see those, I see a lot of people making hats out of that thick thick single ply yarn. The Haythorn base and super bulky is the one you would want to use for that, because you'll get that really nice thick plump look to your project. The Jubilee base, I don't have a lot of. I haven't had a lot of interest in it. It is a sock yarn. It is a little bit of a lighter weight. It's 4 ply instead of 3. And currently I have it in the light sock weight. I will be bringing it in as a sock weight mini, like just minis only, for heels and toes, for those people that want just a slightly stronger contrasting heel and toe for their sock. And that will actually look identical to the Barbary and Salisbury sock bases. You'll just have a little bit more nylon in it. The Salisbury base is also available in bulky and super bulky. So those are both 2-plies. They both have 20% nylon to help them keep their strength. So that's also a very good choice for those bulky hats and ear warmers and mitts and stuff like that that you want to have that big bulky thick yarn for. And that colorway there is hypercolored. It's probably my most popular colorway. Every time I make it, it sells out. If you're looking for non-superwash merino, I do have that as well. I don't have a lot of selection in it, but I'm always looking for suggestions as to what people would like to see. It doesn't speckle well, so if you're looking for a speckled non-superwash merino, it's not going to have that sharp definition just because of the way that the base reacts to the dye. So I do have the non-superwash in fingering, sport, and worsted weight. And then I also have the Woodbridge base. So this is superwash merino, nylon, and cashmere. And I can do either 10% cashmere or 20% cashmere, which will affect the percentage of merino that's in the yarn. It's in sock weight only, and I do sell it as a sock yarn. It is also available as a spinning fiber with 20% cashmere and 80% superwash merino. So it doesn't have the nylon and the spinning fiber, but it is super soft and really nice to spin with. All right, so upcoming events. I have another virtual show. Hopefully my voice will recover by then. The virtual show for the Edmonton Fibre Frolic is November 1st to 10th. I'm scheduled for the 6th. You can go on to edmontonfibrefrolic.com for more information on that. If you are local, they do have a show, in-person show also on the 12th and 13th at the Edmonton Expo Center. I do have 2 weeks after the Edmonton Fibre Frolic, I have an open house and dye studio tour, and that'll be during my regular hours, 11 to 5. So you can actually come in, you can see the entire process. I'll have my daughter scanning yarn. You can touch the just scanned yarn. It feels completely different than once it's been washed and dyed. And you can actually see some of the dyeing in process. So it's kind of a neat thing to see. A lot of people come out of that and they'll go, I had no idea there was this much involved with dyeing the yarn. Like, I think people think that it's just like, oh, you just wet the yarn, you put color on, and then it magically turns into a skein or something. I don't know. So anyways, so that's kind of a cool thing to see if you're local. I also do host pop-ups at my shop. I have one actually going on today. I have Sarah from Sarah's Fiber Arts here, and she's got a bunch of fabric notion bags and project bags, and we have some Halloween candy and stuff for the kids. So I will be posting on my social media and in my newsletters and on my webpage all of the various pop-ups that will be hosted in the shop. So you're more than welcome to check that out. And then finally, I have currently going on, because when I do in-person shows, and just because this show particular happens to be happening so close to the Edmonton Fibre Frolic, you guys are lucky because you can participate in this naming contest. So the yarn that you see here is, it doesn't have a name. So what happens is you can go onto my website and you can find the yarn. It's very easy to find, and enter as many name suggestions as you want. And I have the jury, aka my family, go through and look at all the name suggestions, and they pick one. that they think fits the yarn the best. I don't actually participate because I separate all the names from who submitted them so that it's completely anonymous to them. And the person who submitted that name gets to win a skein of yarn. So that contest is open until November 15th. So like I said, it's very easy to find. I can show you, I'm not sure if I have my website open. I might have to open that up. But you can just go onto the website, and I have the very first section that you see, it's called recently added to the shop. The very first yarn that you should see, it should have a picture that says win a skein. Just click on that and then follow the contest entry form. And so I will open it up to questions at this point. I went through it a little faster than I intended to, but as you can tell, my voice is going pretty rapidly here. So hopefully, let's see, I'll just open up the chat here and see. Oh, so jealous of your setup. Yeah, I know. I'm jealous of my setup too. I'll tell you, my setup at home, I figure the room that I was dyeing in was approximately 6.5 feet wide and about 14 feet long, with doors on either ends of the one side of the room, because it was a mudroom. We, back in 2018, we went and I just need to blow my nose here, sorry guys. We went and we built 2 sides of a duplex, and we live on one side and we worked out of the other because my husband has a home-based business as well. And so when we built those houses, the mudroom at the back there, it was supposed to have a washer and dryer in it and a closet. And we're like, we don't need a washer and dryer. We don't need a closet back there. We wanted to use it for storage. And so we actually put the washer and dryer from that side and put it into the basement of the house that we live in, so that our kids, who are like adults now, can actually just have their own set to use. So that left this bare rectangular room with water hookup for the washer and dryer. And so I actually ended up hooking up sink in there. And I think I had 3 electrical plugs, maybe 2, that I could use. And I just I put things up the walls as much as I could. It was just crammed in there. And I could only dye a maximum of 8 skeins at a time. I started getting requests for wholesale. I'm like, there is just no way that I can dye wholesale here, because there's just, I just did not have the capacity to do it and make it worth my time to do, right? Because when you're doing wholesale, you're obviously selling to the stores for less than retail. So you have to be able to do enough volume at one time to make it worth your time. So then I also had the master bedroom was my office. So that was my scanning, my shipping, my labeling, my storage, and everything else. That was, all of my website work was done in there. It was also crammed. I had shelves going up every single available wall space, and yeah, it was crazy in there. So back in the early part of the year, I want to say mid-January, early February, we decided that it was time to find a commercial space for me to dye out of. So I moved in here on April 8th and opened up the shop on May 7th. And yeah, it's been really nice. This location is not my ideal location. I will say I'm hoping at some point, either when my lease is up or possibly the next round of when my lease is up, to move into a space that has a much bigger retail space in the front, because it's kind of small. But there wasn't a lot available when I was looking. And, I also didn't really have an idea of, I knew I needed more space, but when you're going from such a tiny space to like, I'm in 2,500 square feet now. It's like, well, is that going to be enough space? Is it going to be too much space? So I kind of just was like, okay, I have to settle on something, and this is where I'm going to land for now. And then the dream location will come later. So yeah, it is really nice. I do have space in the back. I want to get a trailer so that I can load up the racks and go to some shows that are a little further away, like some in BC. I'd love to be able to get to Knit City. I don't know if I'd go quite as far as Knit City, Montreal, but we can see maybe some of the shows in Manitoba, maybe even some of the other ones in Ontario. We'll see. We'll see how much I want to drive. But yeah, that is the plan. At least start getting some of the Western shows, the in-person shows, so that I can get to see more people in person. I love doing the shows. So, yeah. Is there any other questions or comments? No, I don't see any. So my favorite color to dye. Oh, well, so so that's kind of a weird question, because I have my favorite colors. They're not necessarily my favorite colors to dye. So my favorite colors are the blues, greens, and purples. And you'll see I have a lot of blue, green, and purple in my selection. They're not necessarily my favorite to dye though, because Yuriko would know this. Turquoise is she's nodding is kind of a pain in the butt to dye. However, that's my favorite color. So it's one of those colors that just takes forever and ever to exhaust out of the dye bath. And every time you spill a color, it's always going to be turquoise or fuchsia. It's always one of those two colors. So I love the results of dyeing that color. I love it. However, I love dyeing neutrals too. And I am not a neutral person. I don't wear neutrals ever, other than black, because that just goes with everything. But I love dyeing the browns, and with like a little bit of orange and touch of red and a little bit of green. Like it just, the earthy colors. I just love it. So I've got a lot of those colors too. I never ever work with them. Isn't that funny? Any other questions or comments? Or like I said, I know I went through it a little bit fast just because my voice, especially right in the middle, seemed to kind of cut out there. What was that? I think that's probably it. Oh yeah, we have a love and hate relationship with turquoise. Every dyer does. Every single dyer does. And isn't it true? If you're going to spill a color, it's going to be turquoise or fuchsia. Yeah. Like if you're going to have a massive spill on my walls in my old studio, I have this big streak going down the wall of turquoise dye. I'm going to have to like repaint that entire room, because it's pretty messy. It kind of looks, yeah, it's very messy in there. I'm less messy in this new space now though, because I don't have any walls right behind the warmers. So and it's all concrete floor. And I mean, there's paint and like from previous tenants. This building's about 50 years old. So there's like all sorts of stuff on the floor. It doesn't matter what I do. If I add a little turquoise, it's not going to matter. So, and Lori brings up a good point. She loves these shows because she loves finding new indie dyers across Canada. Yes, I know. It's fun. That's why I like doing the in-person shows too, because you actually get to talk to people that you haven't had a chance to interact with before. So I know on the Zoom it's not quite as interactive as in-person shows, but And you know what? It's here in Quebec City. I've actually this summer I had a lot of people coming from Quebec into the shop. I don't know why, but for some reason I just had a whole bunch of people coming here. So there was some language barriers that we had to kind of overcome with Google Translate, but it was fun. Yeah, no, definitely Zoom is better than nothing. And it does one thing about Zoom is that it gives you the opportunity to see people from across Canada and even across like, North America that you would never find out about otherwise. So I think probably we should probably wrap it up. I think unless there's anybody else that has anything that they want to add.